Hi, my name is Alicia Jackson, and this is my environmental change project. So I'm going to start with my overall question. My overall question was that basically, how was the Tongass National Forest, how has that population of trees declined since the Alaskan Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971? And I was particularly interested in the Prince of Wales Island area. So my interest in this topic began when I worked for 3 years at a fishing lodge in Southeast Alaska. This fishing lodge was located in the heart of the Tongass. It's on a remote island. You could only get there by float plane or by a boat, and it was glorious. There's no pavement, there's no roads, there's no vehicles. It like going back in time. It was pretty cool to see, and you really don't get to see that in the lower 48, I should say. So a little bit of background about the forest itself is that it is the largest intact temperate rainforest left on Earth, and it's the largest forest left in the United States. It's made up of roughly 17 million acres, and it was officially declared a forest by President Roosevelt on September 10th of 1907. On July 1st of 1908, more acreage was added to allow the forest to dominate the majority of Southeast Alaska. And it's made up predominantly of these tree species, being Sitka spruce, western hemlock, western red cedar, and the Alaskan yellow cedar. So since primarily my project revolved around this Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act, I thought it was also good for you guys to have a little bit of background about that act and what it really is. So the socio-political setting that's related to it, of this act, basically it compares to a statehood act, because of its intention to encourage political independence and promote economic well-being through natural resource development. The Claims Act granted natives of Alaska an unrestricted title to 40 million acres. Upon receiving the land, the Alaskan natives created 12 regional profit organizations. The purpose was mostly financial, the goal being to gain profit from roughly half of the 40 million acres. So hoping to profit from 18 million acres, the natives also gained mineral rights to 40 million. So some of the stakeholders involved in all of this are groups like the United States Forest Service, the Alaskan Audubon Society, Alaska Sierra Clubs, Sea Alaska Native Corporation, the Southeast Alaska Conservation Council, who I have particular interest with, the federal government, Headwater Economics, the United States Department of Agriculture, and the Alaska Forest Association. That's just to name a few. And most of these do support conservation of Tongass in one form or another, some being a little bit maybe more self-serving than others, but again, that is entirely up to interpretation. So since I started working at the lodge, I became a supporter and follower of the Southeast Alaska Conservation Council, who I previously mentioned. And since I kind of learned about them in 2013 and became a follower, I really wanted to start to grow my portfolio and put something together that would better my chances of either working with them or something that is forest related. So the methods or software I used consisted initially of Global Forest Watch as well as ArcGIS. I also tried to incorporate Databasin due to the suggestions from our professor. They pretty heavily recommended that I go that direction. As I moved forward with it, I tried to decide or incorporate all of it together or kind of decide which was the better for my topic. Though I must admit that I did have kind of a limitation using them. I wasn't overly familiar with any of them, so it was definitely a learning process. And so I was kind of looking forward to figuring out what these programs are capable of and my understanding of how that would grow and how I could directly apply them to the Tongass itself. The strengths of these methods seems to be that there's a lot of information out there about the Tongass, specifically in different types of maps. And then the main limitation directly correlating with that seems to be by finding valuable information. Again, there's a lot of information out there, but it's kind of hard to figure out what information is legit information, is sound, can be used in science, and what's sourced the right way. And I was definitely still trying to figure out what that looks like. So again, that limitation could be a combination of my inexperience using some GIS software, as well as just misleading or invalid data collection. And then towards the end, I feel like I definitely did run out of time. I could have used probably a little bit more assistance with a project from someone that maybe has a little bit more experience. It's kind of hard, especially in sometimes an online setting, trying to just, if you don't know a lot about it, trying to just dive in and not having that really hands-on help where you can kind of watch other people and kind of piece things together that way. So that was definitely a challenge for me. Again, my overall question, just to kind of bring that back in, was how the Tongass forestry population, so coverage in general, had declined since the Alaska Native Claims Settlement Act of 1971. And then I was specifically interested in the Tongass National Forest area just because I had some experience there, and that's kind of where my interest peaked and started. So my anticipated results actually seemed to match the results that I found. I anticipated finding a decrease in dense forest population beginning in the early 1970s, because that's around the time, 1971 being the time the act began, and so basically upon the implementation of that act. I anticipated finding the largest decline in tree population from roughly 2011 to 2018, as the Southeast Alaska tribes have grown eager to use the forest for revenue. So since that time, a lot of the Alaska Natives have been kind of using and cashing in on their ownership of that forest or the certain areas, and so they've been harvesting a lot of those trees, both old growth and combined with just anything that is money making and revenue. And they then load a lot of those logs onto big barges and ships, and they ship them right on over to Japan, where they do a lot of the work in Japan to process it essentially, and then they send it back to the United States. So that's another very interesting way of doing business. Definitely sends a lot of money that could be kept in the States or kept in Alaska elsewhere. So that's just something to interpret. And then the foreseen take-home message, being directly related to politics and land use changes, directly affected tree populations in the largest forest left, being the Tongass. So in conclusion, I guess you basically see over time, and especially since that act, you do see a decrease in tree population. Overall, I think that I am disappointed that I couldn't find as much information or towards my topic, or at least become more proficient in it. I think that I still, to feel confident and comfortable using the softwares, I would still need quite a bit of guidance using them. And especially even when it comes to just finding viable information that you know is accurate and is from a good source. So that's the conclusion of my presentation. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that it met the requirements.